about a month and a half, and we've been digging into the practical aspects of agribusiness, looking to really understand what does it take to have effective food and nutrition security, while also appreciating the role of agronomy and professional advisors. So in this particular segment, we are focusing on agronomy, which is a field production. We've looked at agro inputs, we've looked at soil management, but we are focusing on field production aspects. And I just want to introduce our moderator for this this segment, this series, and this is Joshua Ochiel, who is a member of the Society of Crop Agribusiness Advisors of Kenya. He heads our agro inputs working group, and is also the managing director of an agro inputs company that does a lot of work in the space around fertilizer and feeding. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome Joshua to take over and take us through this evening's segment. Karibu sana, Joshua.
Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to this session of webinar. In Kenya, we are faced with quite a number of challenges, and especially those dealing with food security and production itself. And tonight we have a team of specialists that will help us to unravel some of these difficulties or challenges that we are facing as a nation. One thing we have to recognize is that agriculture cannot be done in an ad hoc manner. And these are the things that we are trying to, as SOCA, to try to bring into focus, such that every farmer or every person who thinks that he's a farmer and would like to engage himself in farming should be able to interact with the people around them who are trained to advise them on what they should do in their farms. And tonight we have 3 panelists. I would start with Mr. David Ndegwa, who is a very known specialist in the field of agriculture in the country. We also have Jane Musindi, who is one of the specialists in food safety in the country and is involved a lot in policy developments for most of the agricultural fields. We also have Gabriel Uri, who is a very well-known agronomist, and he will be helping us to unravel some of the things that we will be talking about today. I'll give them each a chance to just introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about themselves before we proceed. Let me start with Jane. You're the lady.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jane Musindi. I am a member at SOCA, the Society of Crop Agribusiness Advisors of Kenya. I serve as their technical coordinator. I also serve as the chair of the Crop Subsector Board at KEPSA in the Agriculture Sector Board, and most recently in the now created ASNET, the umbrella body for agriculture in Kenya. I serve as the chair of the strategy committee. I am a trained agronomist, but not a practicing one. My specialty is in market access, mainly standards. I interact a lot with smallholder farmers and small SMEs, small industry, to get them up to speed on their systems. We have to get agriculture be run as a business, not as an ad hoc activity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jane. David, could you tell us more about yourself?
Good evening, viewers and listeners, wherever you are. My name is David Ndegwa. I'm an agronomist. Currently, I'm the managing director at Takazi Limited. which has a farm in Arumoro. Currently, we are engaged in a 100-acre farm whereby we are growing potatoes, tender stem, and onions. So I've been in this industry for long. I'm a business examiner and business and facts examiner, having also done those courses. I've been around for a very long time, so I understand these crops.
Thank you very much, David. It's nice to have you. I think we are going to learn our
mind. I love what I do. When I'm talking about, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, David. And it's nice to have you, David, because I think we are going to learn quite a bit from you, from your experience. And this is what the farmers need to know. And it's not only the farmers that need to know about this, even ourselves as people in the industry. We also need to learn from each other. And there's something you might know that I don't know, and we keep sharing this information. So thank you, David, for being present today. Gabriel, could you take over?
Yeah, thank you. Evening, everyone. My name is Gabriel Urinyaga. I'm a trained and practicing agronomist, and I'm also a farmer. I do some livestock. I do silage, maize, beans, and sugarcane. And I've been farming for, I think, for the longest. So I understand some of the challenges we farmers face. And I try to link my agronomy training to the reality to the farmers. And maybe before, as you start off, I want to tell farmers farming is not ad hoc. Farming is not a side hustle, it is the main business. So doing farming as a side hustle is where we go wrong. But anyway, back to Bwana Joshua.
Okay, thank you, Gabriel. I'm sure we'll hear more of you in your main presentation. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think we are ready to go. You now are familiar with all our panelists. We would like to start with the aspects of food safety. And I think within our panelists, the person very qualified for now to take us through that is our able lady, Jane Musindi. Jane, I don't know if you are ready with your presentation and you're ready to go, or would like some more time?
Yeah, I'm ready to go, Joshua.
Okay, Jane,
So
please take over.
Let me just share my screen. Ricky, I need some assistance.
Okay, as Jane prepares herself, the audience are allowed to ask questions. You will be allowed to ask questions. You can also type in your questions from on your laptop or whatever you're using. We will be able to see your questions and we will try to answer them as much as possible. And yeah, so be ready with whatever questions you want to ask, and we'll be ready to answer you. So Jen, when you're ready, you let us know.
Okay, Ricky, I need to share my screen. Ricky? I'm not sure he can hear me.
Ricky, are you on? Ricky, Jen needs to share her screen.
I've talked to Ricky, I think he'll assist.
Okay. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yes, it's on. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ricky. So Food safety and production has to do with a lot of planning, because we have to ensure that we minimize the inputs that we are using for production. We have to minimize waste and losses due to unplanned costs. It will assist us in assessing possible adverse effects. Some of the effects we cannot mitigate. For example, acts of God, like the current locust invasion. We can't plan for that one. We can't plan for floods. So this one is planning for items under our control. It will also ensure the farm is profitable, because again, as I said, you have minimized your waste. And finally, the most important thing, it will help in ensuring that we have a safe product on the shelf, because we have taken care of all the issues that would have been taken care of to make sure that we are not overusing inputs. So the basics of farm planning, production planning, what we need to consider is farm history, the target market, the crop alternatives, labor availability. Then we need to prepare a cash flow or a budget, and we need to take care of the post-harvest handling. We have to understand how those crops that we're growing need to be handled after they're harvested, and then we have to have a sustainability plan. I will rush through these 7 items, but today we will focus mainly on the first 2. So when we are considering farm history, we have to know, I'm assuming somebody has come and told you that there's a market for tomatoes, or there's a market for cabbage, and it will behave in certain manners. But before you put anything in the ground, you have to plan for it. So some of us, especially the youth, don't own the land. So we shall be leasing the land that we require. So while you're leasing that land, if it is not in an area you are familiar with, you must know, you must have this information with you. What is the weather patterns in that farm area? What are the seasons for rain, for drought, for cold? What type of farming is in the neighborhood? Previous activities carried out on the farm, the soil type and quality, availability of irrigation water, which is the quality and the quantity, and then legal requirements. Now, with the weather patterns, it will help you, assist you in reducing the use of chemicals for either disease or pest mitigation. If you grow, for example, tomatoes in a very humid weather or humid area, of course, you'll get a lot of fungal and bacterial disease problems, and that will force you to use a lot of chemicals. If you grow, for example, cabbage in a very hot area, or sukuma wiki in a very hot area, you will be spraying constantly for insects. Now, the type of farming in the neighborhood, there are some plants that naturally attract pests that will affect your crop. So you must know how this farming that is being done in the area will affect the crop that you want to do, to carry out on your farm. Previous activities carried out on the farm, if the farm has been growing, for example, beans throughout, if you go and put another crop of beans, of course, you'll have a problem with pests and disease. And then secondly, if the farm was a dump site, you will have a problem with heavy metals, you'll have a problem with, basically there'll be a food safety issue with the final product that you'll have. Then the soil type and quality. We have talked in the past about soil testing, and one of my colleagues talked about how soil quality affects the shelf life of the product. If, for example, the soil has too much nitrogen, of course, if you grow cabbage there immediately, you will get a product that has very short shelf life, because after about 2 days, then it will start rotting. And then it will also help you determine how much fertilizer you'll apply, eventually taking care of your costs. And then the availability of irrigation water. Most of us carry out rain-fed agriculture, and we're trying to get people to think about having irrigation as an input, because we can't all grow at the same time. If we use rain-fed agriculture, the whole country is growing that crop at that time, which will lead to losses because suddenly there's too much product in the market. If we adapt irrigated agriculture, then you have a flexibility on when and how to grow your product, and then access to market is easier. So, for example, if you're getting your water from a river, what is the quality of that water? If you're growing product using, for example, Nairobi River, already that's a problem because we know Nairobi River, as it is now, has a lot of chemical and biological contaminants. Quantity, if you have a borehole, there's a farmer who I assisted, we set up the farm very well. They had a borehole, but immediately it got dry. The borehole water went low. So basically the farm became useless because now you can't have a farm without access to water. So you must know what that borehole is yielding in terms of water. Legal requirements, what registrations do you require? The county government registrations, environmental, NEMA registrations, there are various registrations that you require for you to become a legal entity. Then secondly, you must have a target market because at that time, you must know what you're growing and that what you're growing will fit the market that you are targeting. Will it be organic or conventional? What quantity will be required at what time of the year? What quality will be required? And especially this one, I get farmers who complain that they have product and they can't find a market. For example, if it's onions, and the market is there, but the size that they grew does not fit the market that is available. So find out the market requirements in terms of quality. This is size, this is color, this is variety. And then grow specifically for that market. And then market access requirements. What are the safety requirements? Do they need records? Legal status of that product, does it need to be registered? Did you use product that has a patent, the seed has a patent and therefore you cannot therefore sell because you did not acquire the license to produce that crop. And finally, standards. For you to access a market, there are standards that they apply. What are the standards that they require? For example, for the export market, you require, for example, a global gap certificate. If it is within Kenya, there is KS 1758 that now all horticulture players are supposed to adhere to. Get yourself these standards, read them, and know what is required of you. Then crop alternatives. Now, when you're growing your crop, you must know the crop cycle of the crop you're growing. What are their water requirements? What pests and diseases attack these crops? The rotation plan. Now, rotation plan means you must rotate your crop to reduce the number of chemicals that you're going to use on that farm. What crops rotate with the other? You just can't rotate anything. What equipment will you require? Are there crates, harvesting equipment? If you're growing fruits, you have to have the secateurs. Then what support systems are available? The agrovets, where will you get your chemicals? Now, most of this planning has to come from a professional, advice has to come from a professional person. Do you have those extension services available? Now, even for spraying, we now have SSPs, spray service providers. Do you have access to such a person so that now when you start your agriculture, you have access to this person who can help you to prepare your spray programs? And then lastly, post-harvest handling requirements. This product, does it need to be dried before it is sold? Does it need to be cooled before it's sold? At what point does it need to be dried or does it need to be cooled? Labor. How much labor is available in the area? If you're going to grow French beans, you will need labor throughout once you start harvesting. If labor is not available, your crop will go to waste. If labor, again, is not available, can you transport them in? What is the cost? What skills are available? Do you need to train this labor to work on your farm? What are the labor cycles? If you plant every 2 weeks or you plant every month, when will you be harvesting? When do you need this labor to come in? And then on-farm facilities. For example, something simple like right now with COVID-19, we need to wash our hands. Do you have hand washing facilities available? Do you have toilets available, for example? Is there a place these people can put their home clothes when they come to work for you? Now, the most important thing out of all this exercise is to prepare a budget, which sometimes can be called a cash flow plan. You will put down all the costs and expenses that you expect to incur, including tax requirements, insurance, memberships, because now we are looking at aggregating. Where are you going to aggregate your product so that you're not the only one that is selling this product? And of course, there's a membership fee attached to that aggregation cycle. And then you put down the expected returns, the income, and the cycle of payments, and then you deduct that from your costs and you get a net income. Now, for people who harvest and get paid on contract, there's a cycle to those payments. So how do they come in? Post-harvest handling, again, is storage available? Is it suitable? What's the duration of that storage? For example, if you produce onions and you want to market them 3 months from now, where will you store them? In what containers? Logistics, distance to the markets. How will you access the market? Is it near you? Is it far from you? Delivery frequency, are you required to deliver every day, every month? How will it be? Transport types, if you don't have transport yourself, what is available around you? Is it suitable for what you require? And then, is it possible to contract these transport arrangements? And then finally, your sustainability plan. Where will you get your finances to carry out your agriculture? Where will you get your labor? Where will you get your equipment? Where will you get your land if you need to expand, for example? Irrigation water, should your current one go down, what is the alternative? And then the environment. How will you conserve the environment? Because we are told agriculture and environment go together. They go hand in hand. If you don't conserve the environment, we cannot sustain agricultural production. Thank you, Joshua. Joshua, you're muted.
Okay. Thank you, Jen. You can hear me now? Okay. You mentioned something to do with weather pattern. And I would maybe, on behalf of the audience, and especially the farmers, I would like to know whether the forecasters, yeah, those who forecast weather for us, are giving us sufficient information that would help the farmers to actually predict when to plant and when not to. In your own opinion, as an expert, do you think we are getting proper information as far as weather is concerned?
Some time ago, we used to rely on what were they called, the KBC reports on TV, being told what will happen tomorrow, what will happen next month, the Kenya Meteorological Services. At some point, it became very difficult to predict because what they were saying turned out to be opposite. But the goodness is there has been some private sector providers that have come in to provide accurate weather predictions. There are some that are funded by people who are interested, like Bill Gates Foundation. There are people who actually you can pay a small amount per year to get you accurate weather information. So the information is there, but the one we tend to rely on is something that is free, but the free is not usually accurate. So you need to actually pay some membership to an accurate weather prediction service, which is available. Calro also has one. I think theirs is a bit more reliable than the Kenya Meteorological Services. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Before I let you go, or before you answer any other questions that anyone else might have, on the policy aspects, when we look at the exports food safety requirements, we realize that a lot of emphasis is on the exports rather than on the local food that we eat around. What would be your own assessment of the level at which we are consuming toxic food?
Yes, you brought out an important aspect. We only export, it is good to know that we only export 5% of what we produce in this country in horticulture. 95% is sold and consumed within. Now, the reason we are so stringent on the export product is because the consumer of that country or that market demands a safe product. Our consumer here, we just go to the market as long as it's green, and in fact, the greener and the fresher it looks, you want it, but you do not ask questions as to where it has come from and how it was produced for it to look that safe, that good. And sometimes the best looking item might be the unsafest one. So we need to actually take into consideration standards by which we produce some of these products, and the consumer must start demanding for the market to provide him a safe product. Otherwise, as a farmer, we will look for the shortest route to provide you what you want. It is up to the consumer to demand a safe product.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, Jane. We look forward to any queries or any questions that may come from the participants. So in the meantime, maybe we will jump on to our next panelist, our next teacher. I call him a teacher because he's taught us quite a lot in the industry. So David, could you talk to our audience tonight?
Thank you, Joshua. I'm humbled to be in this panel this evening. And yes, I accept to be called a teacher because even when I'm talking, I feel like one. Jane has done a good job, and he has really expounded on the food production chain. And I'm going to hold the farmer's hand and we walk step by step on what production entails. Jane mentioned one important fact that we are in this farming for profits. We are in farming as a business. So we need to understand what business is. So if you don't understand or if you don't know where you are going, then in the destination will become your home. So business, what is business? If I'm in the business of selling chicken, I must ensure that I have chicken day in, day out. Just like a small kiosk keeper, the way he stocks sugar from 1st to 31st, from January to December, the farmer should be able to be, if you are farming and you're in business, in farming as a business, then you should have what you grow throughout the year. But I want to say this, because of irrigation limitations, we have three main classes of farmers. We have agricultural farmers. These are farmers who rely on rain-fed, and these are the maize farmers, those who grows food products that are not perishable, those that can be stored for long, like maize, wheat, sorghum, millet, beans, dry beans, and that. Those are in agricultural class. Those have to play within specific rules whereby you grow when you anticipate that's going to rain or at the onset of rain. So you plant your wheat, you prepare your land, and you wait for the rain to come. You plant big swaths of land, and then you harvest at once. Probably at the time of harvesting, if the market is not favorable because the crop can be stored, you can store the crop and speculate for better prices. That is one class of farming. Then we go to horticulture. Horticulture farmers or horticulture farming is growing of food crops that are perishable in nature, that have got higher returns per unit area than agricultural crops. And the fact, because they are perishable in nature, then they cannot be stored. So you have to keep on growing. And agriculture in Kenya mostly is practiced, especially for the local food crops, is practiced by small-scale growers. And These are people who keep on crying a lot because one, they think that market is the problem, but I'm going to explain where the problem is. Market could be a problem, but it's a secondary problem. The primary problem is production. Then we have got fruit farmers. Fruit farmers are those who have orchards. That's a very good method of farming, because once you establish an orchard, you don't do much into it. You just wait to harvest the crop, especially, but you have to put fertilizer and take care of your trees. Today, I want to restrict myself into horticultural farming. There are other types of farming, but the major farming activities revolves around horticulture, agriculture, and fruit farming. Today, I'm going to dwell more on horticultural farming. Now, when you talk about a business, if you have got a merchandise for sale, you need to have a customer. You agree with me that a shopkeeper who sells sugar throughout the month, from January to January, gets customers who come to his shop routinely. And they develop a relationship between the seller and the customer. So if, for example, you become a horticultural farmer, and instead of planting 5 acres of cabbages, you plant 1 or half an acre. After every 2 weeks, you plant another half an acre. Then it means that at no single time will you exhaust the cabbages. And of course, you have to select like 2 or 3 vegetables which you can grow well. By so doing, you'll have an item for sale throughout the year, and you'll be in business. If you plant 5 acres of cabbages and fold your hands and wait for them to mature so that you can sell, one, you don't know who you will sell to. Secondly, the moment they hit the market, you don't know what price you will sell them. If you meet a bad price, then you'll get a hit and you'll get a total knockout. Those are the guys who come and say that farming is not profitable, it's risky, but it is risky because of how we approach it. If we do the right approach, then we'll be able to benefit from farming. I want to tell you something that is really the game plan of farming. Instead of focusing on production, on price, focusing on price that you cannot control the price, think about production. Think about how you can improve the production per unit. By doing what? By doing the best you can. How? When we get into production, before even you place your djembe to start digging, my colleague Gabriel said that farming cannot be ad hoc. I would agree with him, and also add that farming cannot be a walk-in. Now, walk-in means you have to ask yourself some 4 questions, very important questions. What to produce? Where to produce? When to produce? How to produce? The moment you answer these 4 questions, you'll have solved 50% of your problems. And then you have to know that everything that we do has an active ingredient. So there are those key factors in farming that results or give results. If you focus on them properly, you'll get results. What are these? First of all, as Jane said, you have to look for land. Once you get that land, you have to prepare it well. Jane also said a very important point, you don't have to buy land, you can lease, because that money which you could have bought land with, use that money as your capital. So once you lease land, and you have leased land, as Jane gave us the factors of which you should consider, like They should be near a source of water. Prepare your land well. Land where crops are grown is normally called a seed bed. You need to think about how your bed looks like. Every one of us wants to prepare or to sleep on a comfortable bed. Please ensure that your crops or your seedlings or your seeds rest in a good bed. That seed bed should be properly prepared. If you don't know how it is prepared, please contact a trained person and ensure that he works with you. Land preparation, the moment you prepare your land poorly and you are planted, you have lost a chance to improve it. You cannot improve it because the crop is already there. Then after planting, after preparing the land, you come and apply fertilizer. Jane talked about soil analysis. You have to do that soil analysis in order to get to know the amount of fertilizer to use. The manure is very, very important. But one aspect that I want to explain about manure is that manure is not just manure. And manure is not a major nutrient provider to the soil. Manure is actually like a soil conditioner. What do I mean by this? The moment you put manure into the soil, it helps you to improve your soil structure. If you had poor soil structure, if your soil was clay soil, it improves it. It increases the water retention capacity and aeration, which is needed by your roots. So where is manure supposed to be? Manure is supposed to be inside the planting holes. So once you prepare the land, you dig the holes, and you don't just dig the holes, you use spacing. And you should stop using eyes to measure. We should go for the actual measurements. If the spacing for potatoes, for example, is 30 centimeters or 25 centimeters, whichever spacing you've planned to use or to adopt, please ensure you measure 30 centimeters apart. Measure the distance where you're planting, that line, and then divide by 30. And then get the number of potato seeds that are supposed to be planted in one bed. Then you dig the holes, equal the calculations, and then place before you place the potatoes, dig those holes, put in manure, put in fertilizer, and mix. Mixing is like the way you would be preparing nyama and sukuma in a sufuria. You mix your soil properly, what we call homogeneity. You make sure that all the fertilizer granules are separated and they are properly mixed with the soil. Why? Because fertilizers, most of the fertilizers are hygroscopic. Hygroscopic, they suck. They absorb water from the atmosphere or from the surrounding. So the moment if you don't mix well, that fertilizer granule come into contact with your seed, especially when it is watered. Let me go back a bit. The reason as to why the seed in the store does not germinate, it is because it's stored at a certain moisture content, which is below 13%, which cannot support germination. The moment you take it to the field and you start watering, it imbibes water, and then it becomes engorged. So if for example, you've watered and it has become engorged, the germination mechanism gets triggered and the seed starts germinating. If at any point you stop irrigating, the seed starts losing water to the surrounding. And if you have fertilizer granules surrounding your seed, then the loss of water from the seed becomes faster, and then the seed rots. If you procure such kind of a seed, you'll find that it's surrounded by a white mycelia. And this is what comes as a result of using a lot of fertilizer. This has pushed more farmers to not applying DAP in the whole, simply because they think, or they have been sold a narrative that the moment you use DAP in the whole, it scorches your seed. No, it is just like electricity. If you put the finger inside the hole that you plug in the bulb, you get a shock. So you're using the electricity wrongly. It doesn't mean that it's that way. Use it well. So if you plant well, you dig the hole, you mix the fertilizer well with the soil and manure, and then you plant, you will not get any scorching. Once you've done your planting using the spacing, and you get the right plant population, then the other active ingredient is irrigation. If you irrigate well, then you'll have a good crop. So I'm talking about 4 active ingredients in farming. These are things that once you do them wrongly, you don't stand a chance of rectifying them, and they result to a loss. Land preparation, fertilizer and manure application, planting, and irrigation. You would say that if I don't irrigate today, I'll irrigate tomorrow. But a plant has a definite days of growing. If it is 90 days, if it goes for 1 day without irrigation, then it will reduce its productivity. So if you can lose your yield from, for example, in terms of potato, from 30 tons per hectare to 25 tons per hectare because of poor irrigation. So it's very, very important to ensure that these 4 key ingredients of farming are well controlled. You may ask about what about spraying? If your crop is attacked by an aphid today, and you spray tomorrow, you'll eradicate the aphids. But if you find that you planted wrongly, you cannot uproot and replant. If you prepared your land poorly, you cannot redo when the crop is already there. If you planted using the wrong spacing, some crops that are closer to each other, they are competing for nutrients, then you cannot undo. Irrigation that is done late affects your production. Then weeding, you may not have to specifically weed today. You may find that you have allowance to weed like 3 days to come or something like that, and then harvesting. So as you do other things, they're also important, but these are the 4 things that are very, very important. So the other thing is that I need to mention that when it comes to seeds, you have to look for seeds that are certified. Certified seed will give you what you're looking for. The seed breeder normally go for those desired characteristics in a seed, what you're looking for. So in this country, I have no idea, or I've not heard anyone complaining about the seed quality in something that can make somebody worry. And I would say that we have got competent seed merchants. And also, I've had very good interaction with KEFIS. And I know if there is one government body that has competent staff, it's KEFIS. So these guys are doing a very good job. So use the right seed, ensure you do what you are required to do, you feed your crop well in order to increase the production. I'm going to give you an example. A person who plants or who plow an acre and plants cabbages using a spacing of 40 centimeters by 40 centimeters, 2 lines per bed, a bed of 1.5 centimeters, will end up getting 16,000 cabbages in an acre. Another farmer who is not using proper spacing may get 10,000 cabbages in an acre. The one who planted 10, even if he gets a price of 10 bob per cabbage, and the other guy sells for, who has 16,000 gets 8 bob per cabbage, the one who got a lower price will end up putting more money in the pocket because he controlled his production. The production activities are the ones that lie straight on our hands. The price doesn't. The price is not under our control. So we can take our power. Farmers can take their power, or can put, they have the power to control production. So let's focus as much as possible with what we can produce. When it comes to spraying, because these are food aspects, food safety issue. Human beings want to eat food that is safe, and that's something that is going to be beneficial to their soil, to their health, but not something that's going to send you to the hospital with other ailments. So when it comes to spraying, farmers should observe the minimum they can do is to observe the PHI. PHI is pre-harvest interval. Read the label. Don't even wait for somebody to come and explain to you. Things about chemicals are very simple. Any information about what you need to do is actually within that label. It has given you the dosage rate, the amount of water that you need to use, and how long you have to wait when you spray. And this is a very broad topic, and because of limitation of time, I'm going to add there. In our next session, we're going to pick one section and run away with it to make sure that farmers or our listeners understand. I hope I've worked with our listeners well enough, and at least they are not where they were before I started talking. Thank you. Joshua.
Okay, thank you very much, David. Thank you for your presentation. I think it was very clear. One thing I would like to ask you, David, we talk a lot about increasing production and how we can link that to the markets. For small-scale farmers, I think most of them have that difficulty of linkages to the markets. How do you think this can be addressed? Because it's not just about producing. In the first case, we plant at any time of the year, okay, during the rainy season most of the time, but without really thinking of where the crop will go. And therefore, the market access and the linkage is a very key aspect to the small-scale farmers. What would be your one-touch advice to the small-scale farmers?
The small-scale farmers are not supposed to be desperate. They have the power to improve their lives. That's market linkage. What happens is that the small-scale growers are growing very little. Each is growing his own small cabbages, tomatoes, and they need to pull their resources together. They need to join hands and form cooperatives. And that will give them an added advantage in terms of bargaining and also linking to the market. Maybe in that aspect, I need to bring you up to speed as to why there is a group of people who are hated by the farmers called brokers. Actually, the reason as to why brokers comes in is because that lady who sells tomatoes in Parkland's market, her work is to sell tomatoes, and she wants to sell. She doesn't want to go to the fields to buy. So she needs somebody who grows tomatoes and can supply tomatoes throughout the year. And if you go to that section market, you'll find that it has sections. It has tomato section, it has cabbage section, it has whatever. They are all divided in sections. You'll find that those who sell cabbages sells cabbages from January to January. Those traders would want to link up with farmers who grows tomatoes or potatoes or cabbages through January to January. But those farmers are not there. So what happens is that because a farmer is growing a small quantities of tomato today, a broker has to get in to know that today I can get tomatoes from Joshua. Tomorrow I'll get from Jane. The other day I'll get from Ricky. The other day I'll get from Kamau. The other day I'll like that. So this broker comes and creates a web that links all these farmers. But these farmers, within the locality where they are, they can actually form a cooperative whereby they can pool their products and sell or advertise to the buyers who would actually get to know where they are. And I think one of the easiest and the surest solution to the marketing problem is formation of cooperatives. If farmers could swallow their pride, the ego, and accept to put the resources together, they'll manage. I'll give you an example of a drop of water or water in a grass. Water, if you put water in this cup, it is not harmless. But if you combine several millions of water in these cups, you will create a river with a capacity to drown a city like Nairobi. And that is one molecule of water. When you bring several molecules, several billions of a trillion of molecules, you cause havoc. So these farmers, when a farmer is operating on his own, he or she cannot make it. They need to pull up and come together and form cooperatives. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, David. I think that is very clear. And as you can hear, ladies and gentlemen, David breaks down all these aspects into a very simple message that any farmer, whether small or big, will understand. And therefore, that is the value that we have in some of these sessions. And I must say that, David, thank you very much for that. I would like us to go to our next panelist. And in the next messages that we will receive from now, we want to look a lot more on the agronomic aspect of farming. The question that has always come up is, do we really need advisors when we are farming? Can't we just plant like our old grandmothers or mothers just used to go to the farm with a djembe and plant their seeds? Do we really need people around us who will advise us on how to properly do the job? Our next panelist, Gabriel, will try to unravel that for us, and I would give the chance to Gabriel. Proceed.
Thank you, Joshua, for the chance. You've asked some pertinent questions. Do we need? Why do we need? And can I do it myself? More or less, that is what I think we are addressing regarding agronomy. One big issue with our small, especially more or less the small scale, and why I say the small scale farmers is because the large scale, the horticulture David was talking about, already engage agronomists because they realize the importance of agronomists. I will give you an example, a real life example. When you get sick, you try self-medication, it doesn't work. And when you realize it doesn't work, you go to the doctor. By the time you go to the hospital, the first thing the doctor asks you, why did you take so long to come? Because what could have been a small situation, you've now made it a bigger situation. This is the same with farming. When you don't seek expert advice from agronomists, what could have saved you a lot from the start ends up being quite a big loss to you. David said, you need to look at things like your seedbed. Once you mess the seedbed, by the time you bring in the agronomist much later, and most of the times, the farmer will bring in the agronomist out of frustration. By the time we walk into your farm, I get calls from farmers. When I go to their farms, he has already messed up. So we try now and calm the fire. This is a problem. You need an agronomist for various reasons. Number one, this is an expert. He could be an expert in the growing. He could be an expert in agrochemicals. He could also, nowadays, agronomists are also experts in some markets. They know certifications, safety. So you cannot try and do farming as a business without bringing in the experts. It's the same way you'll go buy a car without doing your research and going around. You have to call a few dealers before you buy a car. You call this one and ask, what does this car do? What does this car do? Why not go and just buy it directly? And that's where our farmers go wrong, because you don't want to ask, you want to try. When it backfires, you start blaming the crop, the weather, God, yet you did not seek professional advice. I will give you an example. I said I'm a farmer as well. I've also, of course, farmers, we behave the same. It's our nature. One of the mistakes I do at times, I try my own things without seeking for professional help. And one of the biggest lessons I've learned so far, especially when David, you said that you need to know the what to produce, the when, the where, and how. One point I also add there is, and the where to sell. Because as a farmer, I will hear avocados prices has gone up. I come and grow avocado. Without doing my research for the last 4 years, why has avocado price gone up? Maybe Brazil was supplying avocados. They have had weather issues. They're not able to supply. Yet here, I haven't even asked other people, agronomists, what is happening in the world market. Why should I go this way? I come and plant my avocados. That is 18 months wasted on my land. Then after 2 years, 3 years, my avocados, I'm stuck with them. You end up eating avocado in the morning, avocado juice, apply avocado on your face, just because you did not want to seek expert advice. I will go back to now Jane as an agronomist. She mentioned something to do with the weather. She told us there are places you can get the weather data from. Now, most farmers don't know that. Here you have Jane, who is an agronomist. She has told you can seek some help and get from this, and that helps you a lot. It helps you plan on what to grow. You just don't grow and then halfway, because as a farmer, sometimes we just rely on the rain. We know October is a rainy season, April is a rainy season, so let me plant a long-term crop. If I go to the weather, the AccuWeather, whoever the other weather guys are, Jen, I believe you'll give us some contacts, some where we know the weather is, Calro site. And I see they're projecting that the rain will be there for 2 months. Why do I need to grow a 6-month crop when I can do a 2-month crop? Next, here I am with my crop. I don't know what is happening. It has, because I won't say diseases. Usually it has something that looks funny. I don't want to seek help from an expert. I go and start asking my neighbor. My neighbor, being the expert, tells me mix wood ash with Omo. And I do that. Then I mess up my garden sometimes because there's runoff. Next season, I'm coming to plant, it does not work. I start asking myself, what is happening this season? I have seen farmers who do not know the difference between herbicides like glyphosate, which clear all crops, and pre or post herbicides. So you'll find a farmer going to, without knowing, without any knowledge, just asking for this herbicide because the neighbor told him, I use this herbicide. And maybe the neighbor has a problem with grass, your problem is broadleaves. But him being him, and I believe he's an expert, and he's not an expert as such, you don't want to get the advice from the agronomist. So I will go back to my earlier point where I said, farming, I used to do farming as a side hustle, and it used to drain my main hustle. Nowadays, I want to do farming as a main hustle, farming as a business. If I want to do my farming as a business, I have to get serious. I have to get the experts, be it the market experts, be it the agronomists, be it people who have done it before and done it for long. This is another issue. We usually seek our advice from someone who has done the farming for maybe 1 season more than me. They are just learning the same way with you. It's like asking someone who has just known how to drive a car to teach you how to drive. It is a disaster. Go for the expert, someone who has been there for long and understands. And this will save you a lot of time, money, frustration. So something else I wanted to add. Another thing when you don't seek expertise, you just plant what has been planted all through without knowing, because people are saying this is bringing in money, this is bringing in money. Now you've sold beans this season, you've made money. Next season, you go for beans. You need to seek expertise so that you can know why did these beans produce better this season? I plant next season. Why are they not producing better? Then we start blaming, it is a soil, it is a soil. You need expertise for such. I think if we can engage, as farmers, if we can engage experts, we will go a long distance. There is somewhere I wanted to do some planting of a crop, mogoka, because I come from that side. We were organized to do it. But one of the major things that we had to stop and think about is the neighborhood. Mogoka is like tea. It needs to get plucked every other time. All the neighbors have mogoka. Our main question then became, we sought advice, of course, from experts. And the first thing they told us is, who will be harvesting your mogoka? And that stopped us, because we realized, yes, we might have the best crop, high yielding, but we'll harvest it. And this saved us a lot of wasting time and resources, because then we sought advice from an expert. So for farmers, it is good to seek advice from agronomists. And more so in this age of cancer, where people are misusing chemicals. You do not know what a chemical is, you just go and get. In our last session, I talked about the spray service providers. These are experts. Let them come and help you with your spray. You are guaranteed they'll bring in the right chemical, spray at the right rate and at the right time. And there is accountability. In case you get a mess, there is accountability, someone who you can ask. So I think, Joshua, with those few words, let me await the questions. And I think David and Jane have done over 98% of the presentation, which was good. We just need to fill up. Thank you. You are still on mute, Joshua, sorry.
All right, I'm back. Okay, thank you very much, Gabriel. Thank you very much for that presentation. I think that has sunk in very well. Just before we go to the next step, I would like to maybe direct this question to you, and it's coming from one of the audience. How do farmers differentiate real advice from salesmanship?
That is it is then a very difficult question to answer.
Yeah, true.
But,
yeah.
Sometimes myself, and also, okay, for myself also, because I am an agronomist, there are certain questions you need to ask someone, which will help you know this. For instance, my first question when you come to sell from me, I ask you, yes, what do I expect from this? You expect so much. Where will I, after this, what do I do with my crop? Some of the questions you tweak, and you look at the other person's reaction, then you can know whether this is someone who cares or this is a salesman. But it is very difficult. The only way we can help them is their bodies, like AAK, which or Pest Control Products Board, who will tell you if these are accredited people to do the sales. Then that helps. And also, I believe even SOCA, they can contact SOCA, because SOCA can also advise and tell them, yes, this is someone we know or we've heard of. Because in the industry is small and is big at the same time. It's easy to get the real and also not easy. But what you need to do is ask the right questions. I won't be able to say which are the right questions. I don't know, maybe David, because you've also purchased from agronomists. How do you know which is the real from the fake advice?
Yes, actually, this has been a big problem, and sometimes I sympathize with the farmers because the guy who goes to sell, and I've seen this in real situation whereby I found a farmer in Loitoktok spraying Divine, and then he told me that he got a new chemical, which was multivane. When I looked at multivane is mancozeb and Divine is mancozeb. So this guy came and changed the name and told the farmer, stop using Divine, it's not working. So I've got something called multivane, which is working. And the advisors, we need to reach out to them because they are our colleagues. We need to tell them that it's not all about selling. It's about selling something that will help the farmer. We are in this because we are service providers. And the benefit that you get is proportional to the service that you provide. So if you are providing poor services, then at the end of the day, you'll always find yourself, or you'll not get the benefits, and you'll see other guys prospering, and you'll keep on asking yourself, what is wrong with me? So what the farmers need to know is that maybe the farmers need to ask the guy who is offering advice from which company he comes from, and see whether this guy is trying to promote his products. There is something that has always been erroneously sold to the farmers, especially the guys who sell foliars. They go and find that the farmer's crop is aborting, mainly maybe because the crop could carry more flowers than it could carry. Sometimes it happens like that. And it has to shed some flowers. So when a guy sees that the crop is shedding flowers, it tells the farmer boron. The farmer pours boron. And unfortunately, they don't tell the farmer to always leave. If you're applying foliar, farmers, always leave a portion unsprayed. If you want to know whether a foliar is working or not, when you buy a new foliar, just leave a small portion, maybe one line, unsprayed. And then you monitor the growth between the sprayed and unsprayed. What happens is that if you spray the whole field, and then you're assessing the same field 2 weeks after spraying, of course the changes will be there, no more changes. But you not know whether the growth is normal or came as a result of the spray. What I would say is that it is difficult for farmers to get to know who is a genuine advisor, and I hope we are advancing well in soccer, because very soon, once we get Morocco in place, we'll ensure that our advisors will be accredited by soccer, and farmers will be able to know that everybody who comes from soccer is not a quack. Thank you.
If I can also say something about it, the reason why farmers are complaining about the quality of advice they're getting is because for a while now, we were not regulated. Anybody who could do anything on a farm decided they can advise, which is very wrong, because that then is not a professional person. You do not go, you know how medical professionals are registered. The same way, then you can identify a quack. Then the same way also, doctors for plants also need to be registered. We are working towards this registration of all providers of professional services, so that at least there's some regulation. For the private sector, we are coming up with a register, national register of certified crop advisors, which will be run by SOCA. There's also a national one, which is under KSAP. It's a bill in Parliament, actually. So once all this is done, we hope, with all these delays, we hope that by the end of this year, there's some sanity in our advisory services, because yes, it has been a missing link to find somebody who can advise you properly. And then where do you seek redress if somebody advises you wrongly? There's usually a register of people who can advise you. If you're in doubt, for us in soccer, we have membership cards. Ask this person which professional body he belongs to, because at that point, you know that there's somebody checking on the quality of work that he will provide to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. We have a number of questions that are coming from the audience. But before I hand over some of those questions, I would like to know from the panelists, is organic production sustainable? And if so, how can we produce sustainably without degrading the environment? These are two questions that are coming from some members. And I give it to any one of us to pick it up. The first one is organic farming sustainable? I know this topic came up last week from the previous discussions, and they tried as much as possible. But from production perspective, and I think, David, you might be much more suitable to answer this one, is organic farming sustainable?
I don't think I'm the right person to answer that because I will come with a lot of biasness in the sense that I'm not a believer of organics. I'm a believer of proper, conventionally grown food where good agricultural practices are followed. There is this perception that if you grow crops without putting on fertilizers and you use manure, then you use organically certified chemicals, then you are growing safe food than the people who are applying chemicals. Application of chemicals and fertilizers does not lead to food being unsafe. If there is a judicious use of chemicals, following the right dosage rate, following the right intervals, and especially observing the pHI, that food will be safe. If you use manure, the basic nutrient for manure, especially if it's providing NPK, it provides K in an ionic form, similar to that is absorbed from the synthetic fertilizer. So basically, if you apply manure, the crop will not take that organic part of manure, but it will take that elemental nutrient that it requires. Basically, if you look at it, I don't want to really go beyond that because I don't want to hammer organics, but I think anyone who is consuming food that is conventionally grown, where good agricultural practices are observed, you are eating safe and healthy food, just like anyone who is consuming organically grown food. You ask about sustainability. In tropics, you've got very high infestation of pests, especially diseases. This is unlike in temperate countries whereby the winter actually breaks the cycle of many pests. So you find that if you have thrips, sometimes you may not be able to control thrips using the organically approved chemicals, and you might jump into the shelf of the conventional, and then if you are registered as organic grower, then you are operating in deceit. Instead of deceiving people that it's organic, you better go into conventional and do it properly. For me, I don't think organic is sustainable, and I wouldn't like to have a world that is going towards organic farming because we'll have a very hungry population because it's not sustainable. And sometimes they say you increase the price of organic. So I'm not one believer who I don't believe that you have to sell food expensively for you to make money, because I also put myself in the shoe of the person who is buying. As much as we want to sell at affordable price, food should be affordable, whereby the farmer breaks even and make a profit, and the consumer also get the benefit of the money that he is paying. To me, to answer your question, I don't think it's sustainable.
If I can also say something, I have worked with organics and I have worked with conventional products. The productivity in organics is about half of what the conventional farming will give you because of the way the nutrients are in the organic inputs. They are more easily taken up by the plant than an organic input. Now, if we know that our population is increasing by the millions, or should I say billions in the world, if we need to have enough food to feed everybody, we cannot all go organic. And then land is a finite resource. It's getting finished. It cannot be improved. Increased in number. So for us in our century, we need to maximize on how to use this land. If we all go to a farming system that produces half its how do I say it? Potential then I think we are doing ourselves a disservice. We actually need to produce well, and what, as advisors, not to beat organic people, but as advisors, we go for a more integrated system. Use your manure to improve the soil so that the soil is balanced, so that whatever you put there as fertilizer can be taken up more easily by the plant. Secondly, we had during the seed conversations the last 2 weeks, we have no organic seed in Kenya. Let no one cheat you. All the seed coming in is treated. So already that is negating the availability of organic product. All product we are growing as it is conventional because all seed is treated. Untreated seed cannot come into Kenya. So we need to have a balance of how we look at organics. As David said, if we use our chemicals judiciously and we use organic material to improve on our soils and on an environment, it is better than going fully organic, because that way it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Now, from my side, I agree and disagree. Yes, it depends with how you work on it. A lot depends also on the pests. David said something to do with tropics. It is very difficult to control pests in the tropics organically because of the way they mature fast and their behavior. But some pests, some diseases, it depends. If you have a crop like coffee and you want to go organic, you cannot, it is not sustainable to go organic in SL variety, which is attacked heavily by rust and coffee berry disease. However, it is easy to go organic if it is Ruiru, which is tweaked not to be attacked by the diseases. So what I'm currently advising, because this is a major question that has been coming up, I've been advising farmers, let us try and do an integrated management. Don't just jump straight into organic, that someone has come and sold to you organics and immediately you change. You will make losses. Go slow, see if it works for you. If it doesn't, go back to your old method, but don't just rush into things. Then another thing farmers need to understand, you see, when you talk about organic, the first thing that comes to mind is high prices. So the farmer sees I'll get a high price. Organic farming is the whole process, from how you produce, how you store, how you process, how you carry. You cannot claim your product is organic if you are carrying it in the same car that is carrying inorganic, not inorganic, that is carrying, let's say your produce has been produced organically, yet you're carrying it in the same car that is carrying product that has not been grown fully organically. How do you differentiate? There is cross-contamination. You're storing your organic and one thing with organics, they want you to store the organic chemicals away from the inorganics, I'll say synthetics. How do you store the same warehouse? And because you have sprayed your organic there, you claim your crop is organic. There could have been cross-contamination. I mean, fumes could have moved from one to the other. The guy handling, he didn't wash the gloves after handling the inorganic, he's handled the organic. So what farmers need to understand is that organic farming is a full process. And I saw the other day, there was a report from a joint report from UN and WHO that was talking about world pollution. They were saying if we go fully organic in the world, we will mess the environment faster than the pollution currently that is there, because we will end up converting more land, 2 times more land, to be able to feed the population. And this means that the trees that were helping with the current pollution will be out. So the argument was, we need to do an integrated sort of thing. That's it.
Thank you, Gabriel. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, the issue of organic growing is still a marriage in our minds. We try very much to make it happen. We try very much to grow crops organically, but as you can see, there's a lot in it and a lot that needs to be done for you, first of all, to completely say you can grow a crop organically, and vice versa. The other topic which really comes along very strongly is the issue of agronomic advisory services. And I see a lot of questions on the same. Maybe I could just read one comment or two or so comments from the audience. One comment from Mr. Daniel Chebet says, it's very important to use the services of experts. We need to comment on the integrity of some of the experts and the complaints by farmers, and that they have been misled. That is one concern there. And the other one says, please emphasize on record keeping. The worst thing farmers do is to repeat bad practices over and over and expect different results. This is from Mr. Robert Wachira. And the final one is for some agronomists misadvise the farmers. What can SOCA do about this? Do you have a database of proven agronomists who have a code of conduct? Now, generally, SOCA is, just from its name, is the Society for Crop and Agri Input Advisors. We are a team of advisors, and therefore the issue of advisory services is key to our existence. And therefore, just from maybe Jen, you could just make it clear to the audience what SOCA is actually doing, and maybe at the end of it, if Ricky would be back, Ricky would probably summarize that for us. If you have something to say, Jen, on that.
Okay, thank you. I had mentioned earlier that the reason why there's a lot of complaints is because of lack of regulation of our profession. And SOCA identified that this is a major issue. So we are coming up with a system of a register that will include certified and vetted agribusiness advisors that farmers can go to. You can go, it will be put on a platform where you can access from the internet, and you choose whichever advisor you want in whichever aspect you want. Right now, it's not there yet. So what we advise farmers is once an advisor comes to your farm, ask them which professional body they belong to. Because if they belong to one, it means there's somebody looking at the quality of work they will give you. If they don't belong to any, then start asking yourself a few questions, because if anything goes wrong, who do you ask? Where do you go? So just ensure that they belong to a professional body that supervises what they do. And then secondly, on the record keeping aspect, because we have said that farming must be carried out as a business, not ad hoc. You must keep records for everything that you do, because at the end of the day, those are the records that will help you plan for your next season. It will help you access your markets, because if you, for example, your spray records, if you keep spray records, we will know that you're observing the pre-harvest interval. If there's no record, then we shall assume everything is not as it's supposed to be. So records help you as a farmer to show that you did your utmost best to produce a safe product. And it also helps you in planning for the next season, and helps you in identifying areas where you could improve. Somewhere where you lost money or you gained money, then it can help you make your decision for the next season. I think that is what I would want to say about it.
Okay, thank you very much, Jen. I think we are just about to wind up. We have just about 6 minutes to go. And I would then just take us to the summary bit of it. Just your parting shots, and I would start back again on top with David. What would you give us as your parting shot? David, did you get me?
He's lost.
David, are you there? Okay, maybe as he prepares, Uri, what would be your parting shots for tonight?
My parting shots to my fellow farmers will be, before we do our farming, we need to calculate our production costs. And this is easy.
Oh, I
we need to engage.
Joshua?
Continue, Gabriel.
Oh, sorry. We need to calculate our production costs. This is easy. Start from the market. How much will I sell? Get an expert. What do I need to use? What inputs will I use? What will be the cost? What is the cost of the income I have? What is the cost of the input money I have? Is it my own savings? If I put it somewhere else, will it earn me more? Don't just do the farming as a hobby. Do your math. Number 2, do our market research. I keep on saying do our market research. Don't just grow avocado because everyone is growing avocado. Find out if everybody stops growing avocado and I'm stuck with mine, where will I sell? Do I have my market? If the market is too saturated, what do I do? Can I process? Number 3, I will advise farmers. Farmers should stay as farmers. Avoid being a farmer and being a broker. There's a reason brokers are there. I don't support brokers. They've conned me as well. But nowadays, the way I do my farming, I do not do it that I know. I look at my cost. I have used 10 shillings. I expect a profit of, as long as I get a profit of more than 10, I'm okay. In the farm, if I get 15 shillings, I'm good with the 5 shillings extra. I might try and go to the market to sell it at 20 shillings, 30 shillings. That is the day you realize why brokers are there. You will go with your produce, go around all markets, go back with your produce. Do your costing well, stay as a farmer. Your profession is a farmer, not farmer broker. This is what I will advise as a parting shot. Thank you. Joshua, on mute, sorry.
Okay, thank you, Gabriel. David, and then we finalize with Jen.
Yes, thank you, Joshua. My parting shot would be, before you get into farming, ask yourself why you want to get into farming. Farming is a business of feeding people. We don't get into farming because we want to make money. You get into feeding because you want to feed people. And the need is about feeding people. Then once you identify that need, you feel that need through getting into farming. Once you get, before you even put a djembe onto the ground, you need to know that farming is just like any other game. It has its own rules. If you go to play football and you apply the volleyball rules, then you'll become a very miserable player. So what you need to do is to get to know the rules of farming, and the people who can teach you those rules are not your neighbors. Your neighbor could have the experience, but he could be practicing mistakes that he has been doing all along, and that's why he is the way he is. And if you have a toothache, you don't go to seek advice, or you don't visit a plumber to fix your teeth. You go to a dentist. So the people who are good and well placed when it comes to farming advisory is soccer. Very soon, I know our chairman is listening. We should have, as we have the badges, the cards, we should also have badges which we should wear and be proud that we belong to soccer. So we are in this game, and the main objective is to increase the production per unit area. Let's demystify this issue of prices, that everybody wants to sell at higher price. And if you are told to buy at that high price, you wouldn't like to buy. So let's increase production per unit area so that our prices, we can be able to sell our food in affordable prices. Also knowing that we are not equal. We've got people who really need that food, and we cannot afford to buy it expensively. So as Jane said, land is not expanding, it is actually shrinking. We need to use technology to improve our production. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Jen, 1 minute parting shot from you.
Yeah, mine is very short. Failing to plan is planning to fail. Before you put a seed in the ground, plan, do a plan. I started with a simple outline of what a plan would look like. The plan will allow you to anticipate a lot of things and put measures in place to mitigate what those things would be. As David said, you need to know the rules of the game, and you cannot go to a football coach for a volleyball game. You must know what the rules of the game are. Secondly, finally, get advice from a person who is professionally trained or has the relevant experience, because at the end of the day, you shall lose a lot of money just starting again. For example, if you go and get your seedlings from your neighbor who has an uncertified nursery because you have seen his trees are doing very well. Now you decided you wanted to plant hers because that is what the market, you have heard the market is taking. When this avocado tree grows after 3 years, you discover it is something else, it's fuerte or a local seed. Who do you go to? Yeah. So you have to put systems in place to ensure that you have done everything that you could have done to ensure that your farming enterprise is profitable. If you need help, get help from a professional person. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we have to end there. And I would like to inform you that we will have part 2 of this discussion. And in our part 2, we will have some organic farmers on board who will try to also answer some of your questions, because they feel they are in that business and they have done it correctly. And they have a point to say. So if you are interested in that kind of discussion, please log in next week on Friday. And from us all, for now, we say goodbye and have a good night. Thank you very much for attending.